from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased joining me, Dr. Michael Proksch, joining me from the East Coast in the US. Dr. Michael, the way I love to do it is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves, tell us a bit more about, what they do and what you are currently up to. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mehmet, for the invitation. I really appreciate it. I usually don't like to talk about myself. That's really hard. Do an introduction for myself. My I'm today chief scientist at Accelerate, working for the education industry in the US. Working with lots of organization over my lifetime in there of data and AI. I started my journey as academic in economics. Spent time at universities in Germany, Australia, sometime in Singapore, and then came to industry a couple of years ago. Had my way through market research, work for a consulting company in Europe and in Asia, and had the chance to learn the ropes in data and AI, understand all the challenges and overcome the challenges of value creation. As my background is in economics, I was always focused on value creation. It was the technology that was an interest, the analytics that was really close to me, but it was eventually value creation that I wanted to achieve. And what we realized a couple of years ago when I was in consulting was that there's different factors that actually contribute to value creation. Those are technology, of course, as value creation in the field of AI. This is technology, algorithmics, or AI, and then we have the field of data. Everybody talks about data. Then you have the business part, and then you have a psychology component. And many organizations agree with me that those 4-5 components are critical in order to create value. But the problem, I think, is that this relationship, for many people, that's hard to understand. And that's why so many organizations fail in the area of value creation, is that those 5 factors are not additive. So it doesn't help if you have them. For example, you have a department that does technology, the CTO, and then you have the analytics department, and then you have the business department, and then you have your CDO, and somebody takes care of data, and you have a transformation officer and takes care of transformation. And if they never talk to each other, then no value gets created. But that's an additive relationship. You have them all. So, but considering that it's when they start talking to each other, that's when it starts to become interesting. And then when they start to create value. So the relationship between those factors is actually not additive, it's multiplicative. And that's something I realized a couple of years ago. And I started my journey to focus on all those 5 factors at the same time. And on that journey, I realized when we were focusing on those 5 factors, we started to create and see value. And especially in the field of AI today, and where everybody talks about hype and reality, and it's really important to go back to the roots and understand where actually take a step back and look at it holistically and see where value gets created. And then after my journey in consulting, I came to the US, worked for Aetna CVS, a big health insurance company. And then I got my chance to switch to a, you would call it AI unicorn, um, a good AI company working worldwide for them, especially in the field of insurance, field of transformation. Then a couple of years ago, I started to write on the book. So where I get invited today to one or two podcasts to talk about the book. And then the book was it's not just my book. I wrote it with the community actually. So I got the chance to, because what we realized was that this value creation problem, many practitioners have that today. Still, how do you create value with AI? And where I started talking about that topic more and more and more, because I in most of my conversations that came up, they were less technical. They were very value driven, and people are under the pressure to create value with the technology that exists today. So I was very lucky to get two of my mentors and friends as co-authors. One is Nisha Palival, managing vice president of Capital One, and the other one is Dr. Willem Bielert, CIO of Premier Tech Canada. And then we wrote on that holistic framework, and we all had a little piece to that big puzzle from our background, our skills, knowledge. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized that in the community, the AI achievers are actually following it. So they're already doing it. They are seeing that multiplicative relationship and have a specific approach to it. So we were really lucky to get lots of industry contributors to the book. Lots of AI achievers. So we have 14 AI achievers from the CDIO of Hewlett Packard, of CBS, the CDIO of Starbucks now, the CDO, and so on. We're very lucky to got the chance to learn from them, because they contributed with their own personal stories and learnings and so on. So we just were earlier this year, we were lucky to get Wiley, that's our publisher, to publish the book with us. And then today I work for Accelerate and as a chief scientist, and we do lots of projects around data and AI, and especially working for customers like University of Maryland Global Campus, which is a global organization, 100,000 students, 10,000 employees, 20 countries, 180 locations. So we're serving them as in the field of data management and the AI. So I did get around a little bit, and long story short, I spent my lifetime in data and AI. It wasn't expected. It started in academia and economics, and whenever people ask me, where are you going to be in 5 years, I said I don't know anymore. If I tell you, I lie, because if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I wouldn't have told you where I am today. And
Exactly.
I want to be. The journey has so many weird turns. I think I'm gonna be still in the field of AI and value creation. That seems to be the constant through my last 10 years, last decade, to create value. And I think it's a journey, and the journey is a long one. And we just talked about it, your journey, and I saw
Yes.
that lots of overlaps. So everybody's going on their journey, and I try to learn from as many other journeys as I can. Very curious person. I like to share. People are actually interested in learning from me. I have been, teacher and lecturer in universities, and just had the chance to work with Thunderbird University's Thunderbird School of Global Management, work on their global analytics program, and so that's a long story short about me.
Great to have you here with us, Michael, today. So, one thing you mentioned, which it's very valid, especially we are living in the era of course, like when I say the era of AI, the accelerated AI, I call it. I like to call it this way. When I started the show, like ChatGPT was just released, and people didn't know what's gonna happen. So of course, when I used to ask the question about, okay, tell me what do you think gonna happen and usually at the time I used to say 5 years, because usually, in tech, when even people who are in executive position, they know you plan basically for 5 years, and then maybe of course you have a longer vision for 10 years.
Yeah.
But now, with what started to happen, I'm not able to ask. And I say, hey, I will not ask you to tell me what are your predictions for 5 years, because what we predict today, probably like maybe after tomorrow, some startup will come and they would do it. So, to your point, that very, 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 very valid. Now, one thing, when you were talking about the reason behind writing the book, and of course your experience and what you see, a common theme, it looks like, for me, and of course I want to hear your opinion about it. So you were mentioning value creation, and you mentioned, like, it seems like we have some silos, and these silos, they don't talk to each
Yeah.
others, like. And I think this is a big problem, because I had another, and it was not about value creation in AI, of course, of AI, but I mean value creation for any tech, right? So value creation for whatever it is, even for example, with digital transformation, like, or value creation for adopting certain trend. How much is the communication, and who do you think should be assigned to make sure that everyone within the organization, they are talking to each others? So because this is something, there are different opinions about it, but because as someone who immersed himself in this, so would love to hear your feedback about communication specifically.
I think it is a hard topic, and it doesn't just impact the big organizations. It impacts even startups, right? So if you think about a startup, and you can apply that framework to different scenarios and situations. If you look at a startup that builds a product, and then the product is focused on technology and analytics, and usually they, and I made this mistake myself. It's thinking, okay, you built a product, and now you leave it to the customer, and to figure out how to apply it best to their business. And they need to bring their own data. It needs to be good data, and they need to really want it. You know, if they don't want it, then they shouldn't use it. With with that um, that point of view, many organizations fail because they don't take care of the other. They create those silos by intention, right? It's like I leave that to somebody else, and I think that's the biggest problem. If we think about, we are not responsible for those individual factors of value creation. If we start seeing our responsibility in it, and that could be as a startup CEO, or it could be as a in an organization, and even and it doesn't matter which role it is there, that in that organization, there's different types of um, scenarios where we have a centralized department, everything's centralized under CTO, everything is centralized under CIO, everything is decentralized. And you have that in different business departments. They have their own AI initiatives. And some organizations, um, they are more buying than building. Some organizations are building more than they're buying. There's a good mix between all of them. And it's really hard to say, okay, that's the way to do it. I think the important piece is that they start talking to each other, or that there's an authority that can make decisions across them. So, and I think that's from an organizational perspective, I think that's the hardest part for an initiative to be successful. How do you do that within an organization, that you are getting that multiplicative relationship and get them all aligned? I mean, the easiest way is you have somebody that does it all. So, and to find that golden egg is really, really, really hard. Somebody that, is not, doesn't just understand all the bits and pieces, but also focuses on all of them. So many times we're coming from a specific background, and we have a computer science degree. You come with a computer science degree, and of course, by your interests are in computers, and technology, and the science part, the analytical part, and you want to focus on that, which is there, right? But then leaving the other bits and pieces out creates a bias towards you know those two factors, and the others are becoming you know less important. And that's the trap. So you kind of need to have interest in all of them. So that's really hard to do. Like when I came, I didn't have much interest in technology because my background wasn't technology. My background was business. So um, I always focused on the business part, the analytics part, because I loved econometrics and was my background too. It's like statistics, love it, big fan of it. Psychology, because I was very interested in that, and I have my PhD partially about it. So it's like the for me the technology and the data part were the boring part. Like okay, I don't leave that to somebody else. But the problem is if you start doing that, then it falls apart again. And you can't build a stable and viable product. So I had to get entrenched in technology. And back in the days, there was not much. There was no distributed computing. So we started, plug our mail service together. That was distributed computing back in the days, right? Or the company, the consulting company, we started building our own dashboard technology because there was nothing cool and interesting and that could tell stories. So we built our own dashboard technology in Ruby, right? Or there was no ready to go analytics packages like I have today. So we built lots of stuff from scratch, broke many times, and but we had to do it because they just didn't exist. And it's not because I was highly interested in being an engineer, but it was what I had to do, and my team, and we built those solutions, and I learned to love it over time, and now I'm pretty good at it, I would say, in technology and engineering, but it's not because I came from that area. And then today, but I have to focus on all of them. So like, if you think about that relationship to get those, if you focus on, let's say you have $5 million and pour it in technology and buy cloud computing. If you don't have any of the other pieces, it's going to always waste it, right? Or you pour it into analytics, buy wonderful analytics solutions for $3 million. It doesn't help you if you only have three, because then you don't get anything else done. So you need to lift them up all step by step, because if one factor of them is zero based on the multiplicative relationship, the value created is always zero. So that's like if you can play that game through, right? If you don't have technology, the thing breaks. Whatever you build could be the best solution, then the value is zero. If you don't have, if the people don't want it, and you build solutions that people never use, then the value is always zero. And I was in those conversations when I asked, okay, what's the return on investment, right? We have many million dollars of return on investment. I said, okay, cool. How many people are using it today? Oh, no, we don't really have a user. So how do you have a return on investment if you don't have a user? And I was like, theoretical, we have that return on investment. But that's not what I asked. I asked the real return on investment. You can always, cheat your way through it, right? It's like, theoretically, if everybody would use it, but that's not the point. You don't have anybody that's using it. So it's like, wherever you play the game, you don't have good data, then nothing comes out of that. So back in the days, we started focusing on all of them. We started to standardize data. We bring in external data. We focus on that part to make that even. We built business solutions by working with business, and we found ways to focus on value creation for everybody. That's like when organizations always focus on their own value creation as an organization serving their shareholders, right? Which is good because they're paying for it. And then you have the The second group, you always focus on the customers, right? You try to, benefit them, or at least not, put any strain on them. And you always forget the people in the middle, the people that are actually using it, your employees. So you go and say, you must use that now. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. Or you, as you said, right? For me, as an CDAO, you go somewhere and say, okay, I built that wonderful tool for you, and people look at you, oh, that is great, and they're never going to use it, because they
Right.
were not involved. They don't see their own value, and with the fear of why everybody thinks you make them unemployed, right? You take away the job, which is
Yeah.
in 90% of the cases not true, right? It's even more, I would say. And today, in 99% of the cases, it's not true. But that's the narrative that gets told everywhere, right? We're gonna lose our jobs, and 10 years ago, people said, okay, in 5 years, nobody's gonna have a job anymore, and
Right.
5 years ago, 3 years ago, when ChatGPT came, right? Oh, everybody's gonna be unemployed in 2 years. Haven't seen that big wave yet. It's like there's always lots of hype, and then the reality kicks in, and you realize that's actually not the case. But you know,
Right. I you mentioned something which actually it was the next question I prepared for, which I will relate to the AI later.
Mm.
And it's the question is from the book title itself. And for the surprise, it's not AI. It's the word value, right?
Yeah,
Um, like especially in business, and I'm happy because I'm talking to you today, and you have this nice fusion between the technology and business. So this gives you really a different perspective. Because from my humble experience, the word value
yeah,
itself, it's very different. You know, if I'm talking to a CEO, then I'm talking to the guys who can actually implement the technology itself, right? So, and let's take AI because, of course, we're talking about AI today and data analytics. So, what should we do to have a common ground for everyone, whether we are a startup, whether we are a big organization, and define? Because, for me, at least on the personal level, uh, there are some words which I feel they are vague if you don't put
yeah.
them into the you got to understand it. Like yeah, this is the value. What I mean by value is this. Tell me a little bit more about this. So because we need to define the value, Michael, first.
It- I totally agree with you. And that's like how we start the book. It's actually about when I started, how people create value, and you ask an engineer, and they tell you with great technology. You're asking data scientists, and they're gonna tell you with accurate models. You go to business leader, and they tell you with the with when your KPIs, then you can create value. Um, when you go and ask the whoever is in charge of data with high quality data, they all are right, and but they all have a different definition of value. Um, and I think that's exactly what you said. It's a challenge here, because there's different ways of looking at value, and we're always lacking a common ground there, right? But there's also, even if we have one definition of value, that might not be correct, right? Usually we focus on business value, right? Which means it's related to the organization, which is good because they're paying for it. But then if we miss the other types of value, then the other definitions of value, we're gonna run in a problem, and that depends on the stakeholder, right? So you have the organization, you want to create business value. You have the customer, you want to create, product value. And then you go to an employee, and if you don't create value for them, it's gonna fail too. So the definition of value and is here really critical, because like what is value for the employee, right? So when people ask me, okay, where do you focus on when you start? Um, with the organizations, or where should organizations focus on field of AI in order to create value? I said focus on the areas where you don't hurt anybody, one, and number two, where you create the most value for everybody. Okay. And low-hanging fruits are usually in process optimization, or when people ask me where to start, in the mailing department. I mean, because it's really hard to with projects to hurt a lot of people and have an adoption problem, and you start in a department that already have clear processes and you don't have lots of people working in it. So that could be one, but in general, the definition of value is context specific and very, let's say, stakeholder specific. But everybody needs to see value, or the project's gonna fail. From my experience, humble experience, as you said, I like that. It's like where we have seen stuff becoming successful is when you create value for everybody, right? And the definition of value here is critical, as you said. Like if you go and, for example, I remember projects when we were going and building a solution where we optimized return on investment, right? And then one of the people that are actually supposed to use it said, yeah, that's really nice, but I don't get measured by return on investment. I get measured by KPI X. And when you focus on return on investment and optimize return on investment, my KPI X goes down. And that was learning for me that, we're actually cutting salaries by, putting the importance on a new KPI that wasn't used. So value creation for them is like value goes down if they use, there was different interests, right? So the organizational interest, their return on investment, yes, we focused on that. We focused on the customer, but we didn't focus on the employee. So we had to learn that, if we had to change the incentives for the employees in order to, to align the value, the values for everybody, right? And that's a critical piece. Or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
And
love
this,
the way you
well,
describe it.
one
Yeah,
thing, sorry, because like, and it's not always obvious, right? So, for example, we talk about in the book when we talk about the adoption of dashboard technology, right? We have dashboards, they exist in the year 2000 or something. The first dashboards came out, and we have now 20 years we have dashboards. So the usual adoption rate based on numbers we've seen is like roughly 30%, something like that, right? And below. So 70% of the dashboards we're building are wasted. So why is that the case, right? Usually people talk about and misattribute the cause to technical problems, right? It doesn't look nice. It's not the right technology. It's the data we can't trust. But I think the reasons are way more emotional, right? If I work with that, how is that dashboard going to be used? Is it really get used to improve my performance, or do I just get measured on my performance? Is my next, in a half a year, am I gonna have a bigger paycheck, or am I gonna have a manager that's gonna tell me off, comparing me to my peers and telling me that I don't have enough X, Y, and Z? So, and that's where where it becomes critical. If they don't see value, if it's not clear the value for them, the adoption is not going to happen, right? And that's why I love the question about the definition of value, because it differs between different people.
absolutely. And but the way you've put it is, of course, everyone, and I like this approach. Of course, everyone would have their own how you call it, like definition of value. Yeah, so as a product person, is value different than a salesperson, different than a marketing person, different than an engineer. But at the end of the day, and this is what I liked in the way you put it, everyone, like let's call them independent contributors, right? So individual contributors. So each one is actually contributing for the business. So at the end of the day, like it's a kind of when you do the, and I know like you would love this because you come from the but that background. So when you have the formula, you put the sum of everything together, and this everything together is actually, you know, it's a by itself have maybe some of the different areas that they look after. So I like this one. Now we're talking about AI, and but the thing also you mentioned a couple of times, things are changing very quickly. So how this affects on the value creation, specifically when we talked about, and your book itself, it's called The Secrets of AI Value Creation. Now, and I believe, and I can imagine the answer, but I want to hear from you. Like, I believe it's not something that okay, we do it once and then we're done, right? So it's kind of should be a process.
Yeah.
So like walk us through this process, and if you have touched base on that in the book, also feel free to mention like how you approach that as well.
I mean, we touch base in the book because, like, in the topic of AI, and thank you for bringing that up, is actually that everybody seems to throw overboard what we learned in the past. It's like because of AI, everything is different now, right? But the rules haven't changed. How we approach them might be slightly different, right? But the general rules have not really changed. Right. So if we think back 20 years ago, and as I started actually thinking about the book, and one of my co-authors, Wilhelm Bieler, actually asked me, "Okay, what has changed to process automation? Going back in the '90s. So what's different now?" And we're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and he always came back with, "But we did that. That we did that in the '90s, and that was important in the '90s too." And we realized, wait, so many things haven't actually changed. It's like the nuances change, and that's a critical piece. It's like the nuances on the technology and where we are today in our society, and um, they change, and but the general approach hasn't changed, right? Change management, going back to Kotter, and knowing what we know about change management, that hasn't really changed. We know we don't know how to run projects in general, right? Talking about waterfall or agile, and we know that since the '90s, and that hasn't really changed. We just need to apply it to new technology and find the nuances in order to make it work. Or strategy, right? We use a well-known strategy approach to create an AI strategy, right? In the book, but this approach is 20 years old, right? It really serves the purpose of building an AI strategy, right? Or when we talk about the challenges of value creation, right? When you go and then read about it in the book, they apply to other technologies too. And the AI has its nuances, and it's slightly different, and it's a different expectations towards the technology, and that changes how we approach it. But the general rules haven't really changed, right? When we think about how AI creates business value, right? And we started writing about that in the book, chapter 2, I guess. When people always think about like the industry use case catalog, right? Where everybody's coming and say, okay, in that industry use case catalog, I should do this. But then my question is always, okay, what do you expect, to happen if you build that? Oh yeah, we're gonna provide tremendous value. But how do you define value? Like in the '80s, we know from Michael Porter, right, that you create value through, and creating a competitive edge, right? And how do you create a competitive edge? By building something that is unique to your organization and is against your industry, right? It's not an industry use case by definition, because it's a competitive edge. Um, and that's where, it's the same approach, right? How do you build something that's unique to your organization, can support that? If you're a low price, organization that, sells low price products. It doesn't help you to, go after something that doesn't support that positioning. Right? If you're a high premium product, you might want to focus on quality. So you can focus on, using AI to boost your quality. But you will have specific processes and specific requirements and specific things on why you're successful. And that's where AI comes in. The approach is still the same, right? It's still Michael Porter, the 80s, right? How to do it and how to get there. And then we use AI to do it. But it's you know, that hasn't changed. It's always interesting to me when people seem to, come with a totally blank sheet and say, I know nothing. It's not true. You know a lot. You know, we just you just don't know how to use AI for what you already know. And that's totally different ball game, right? Because then things start to change and people see value um, when they apply it to what they already know. And that's usually the case for AI, where I see where value gets created. Right? It's not by doing something totally new. It's by improving what organizations are already doing right, but doing it just a little bit better, faster, more accurate, higher, whatever it is. But it's serving the organizations already.
Right.
Right.
What you mentioned, like Michael, is it's a very, very, very important point, and I will tell you why. My point of view, and of
Mhm.
course, but with AI, I would want to hear your opinion on this. So whenever there's a technology, whatever this technology is there, we
Mhm.
try to adopt this technology, right? And we think, and when I say we, all of us, probably, maybe, sometimes, is okay. I will give you an example. So also for the audience too, they will resonate few things. So when the cloud computing became the mainstream and people start to feel like, okay, if I don't jump on this cloud thing, I'm gonna miss a lot. And even I know personally people who were told by even their C-level
Mhm.
management, hey, why we don't have cloud yet? And they start to rush, okay, let's modernize, because it's about modernization, it's about
Mhm.
this. And then what they ended up doing is just pushing physical servers or virtual servers in the data center, just putting in the cloud and using old old architecture, right?
Mhm.
Now with AI, I hope that we will not see the same thing, although I saw some very bad examples
Mhm.
where people say, hey, let's put whatever material, whatever data we have and train it in the AI. And of course, a lot of people that came to this show, they said, AI is not like your magic pill. Like it's not like, because it's garbage in, garbage out, right? So whatever you train if your data is garbage, you're gonna have garbage output. And I think, Michael, the point that people miss is whenever we have a competitive edge technology, I like to call it disruptive technology. We need to think in a disruptive way as well. So and you just mentioned, like, we use the same, we just changed the jargons, but actually we're doing the same thing about,
Mhm.
the nuances that you mentioned. Don't you think, and now with AI becoming something no one can skip it or ignore it or saying, no, it's just a hype, it's going to pass, and then everything will go back to normal. Don't you think, and don't you agree with me, that organizations need to really, we've been saying this, and it's not me, it's like people, leaders in the industry, who are saying, like, every company today, and even startups applies to them as well, you need to think you are a technology company yourself, and the technology company's main purpose is to keep disrupting itself and disrupting the industry behind it. So how are we going, do you agree with me first, and do you think that we have enough, I would say, leadership prepared for this, if it's the case?
That's a hard question.
I
I
didn't
think
mean to have it this way.
no, it's a good question, but I think that the disruption piece is contextual. Um, AI hasn't disrupted every industry yet. So but first of all, the topic of AI, people always I associate it right now today with, ChatGPT and the generative AI, but, AI exists for many, 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 many years. And, you have financial organizations and insurances, and they use analytics and however you want to call AI for, decades. Um, and then, yes, it's more accessible today, and you have the compute today. You have lots of data today, yet you are able to, use for the purpose of AI. But the disruption is more technological than it is uh, economical. Um, if you look at, for example, the S&P 500, right, and you see which companies are striving and which are not. You see, most companies today that are, in AI, those are the ones that are making the big waves. But it's not. But there are technology companies, not like there are, the and it's not like other industries where I see huge jumps. But AI definitely can influence those industries, but it's not because of the disruptive technology. It's about the application of it. And I think that's where it separates that disruptive piece, where you think about, it's like Netflix, for example. And Netflix started many years ago, and they shipped hard drives, CD-ROMs um, to people. And then when streaming technology and internet made it possible, they used it for their industry, and that's where they became disruptive. So, but it wasn't, it was the availability of it and how they applied it to it. And I think that's the critical point. Then it actually, they're reading about their journey. It's very fascinating, because there were, lots of, and when you read those journeys about those disruptive companies, there was lots of random factors involved, and luck, and but and lots of grit and commitment to creating value. But nobody wanted to be. I think nobody started with, I want to be disruptive, right? It's like um, it starts from the value side, right? And I think eventually you are disruptive through something that came up. Um, yeah, I think that's the component. I think thinking innovative, yes. Thinking disruptive is really hard. It's like you need to, in hindsight, but beforehand you just don't. It's like the stock market. In hindsight, everybody's gonna say, yeah, that was clear that Nvidia was AI. Why didn't you invest in Nvidia when it was still a company that sold hardware for gamers in the 2000s, right? If you would have known that, it all comes up, and today GPU is the important piece and so on. Why didn't you invest for $1 and now you're going to be billionaire? You didn't do it. So it's clear, right? In 2010 you just didn't. And that's, I think, it's the same thing with the disruption, right? You just don't know when something becomes disruptive, and there are so many startups out there that could be disruptive, but you just don't know which one it is, right? There's like so many other factors. Do they have the funding? Do people know about it? Is it really the value it creates? Is it the right time and the right moment? Does it but yes, I think the disruptive question is a good one, but I can't clearly answer it, to be really honest.
Yeah, no, of course. It's just, like I just throw my opinion on this matter. Yeah, maybe yeah, I should have lowered the bar a little bit, and instead of saying disruptive, saying innovative. That's true. But I always try to it's people what they do to me. So people they
Yeah,
try
it's good. It's a good question.
like people they try. No, I'm saying like when I say I'm not talking about the question itself. About how I look to the companies. The same way, for example, they say, "Hey, we wait from you, the best." And so I'm waiting from everyone the best. So the best is to be disruptive. Of course, if they are innovative, we are all happy, right? So this is what what I meant by this. Mm,
But even the word disruptive, is it always a good thing? Like,
no,
you
depends.
sometimes we need to rely on stability in some areas, right? If you think about disruption, yes, but disruption doesn't always mean it benefits every stakeholder there, right? If you think about yeah, well, Netflix was disruptive. It definitely changed the market, but it also, made lots of companies and their employees unemployed. So is that like for the customer, it was
Yeah,
it brought huge advantage for the customer and Netflix. Other
yeah,
people actually lost in that game, right? It's like, was it good or bad? I don't know. It's for me, it's good. I can watch it at home. It's cool.
yeah.
But is it
But
is
this
it
always happens, right? So this is always happens whenever
yeah,
we have like when the cars came out, we had the same thing, and like every when the email became like mainstream, like we people who used to deliver the postman. Like, I don't know if there's still any postman today, but right?
yeah. But I mean, also on the other hand, even if people ask you to be disruptive and the big innovator, and and I know you're working in that field as well. You go to a company and say, look, that's how you can disrupt it, right? So that means you need to be bold, and you need to take risk, right? Which a lot of startups do by how it's made, because they're very risky how they start. Um, but big organizations usually don't take that risk. So you come there and say you want to be the disruptor and say, hey, tomorrow you're gonna sell your product for half the price. So that's gonna disrupt the market.
Right,
And now you're
right.
gonna see how many executives are gonna help you to be that disruptive in that market. I don't think that's gonna there's like, even if you come there with a good disruptive idea, is it gonna all those organizations take it? If you read about Amazon and Jeff Bezos, and he went to a lot of organizations and was disruptive, right, in his business model, and wanted to collaborate and wanted to sell. Same Netflix, they went to blockbusters and wanted to sell, and and they weren't you know expensive, to be really honest, like back, thinking back and knowing what they're worth today. um and those organizations had the chance to buy them and be disruptive, and they decided not to, and then went in the oblivion and disappeared. But they had the chance. They got they it's
Yeah,
not them the option to be innovative and disruptive. Like, they decided not to, right? And that's like it's the other thing, right? People are usually don't like to take risks, and especially as those big organizations, it's not common, number one, and number two, the business models usually don't allow to take lots of risk, because what we're trying to do is we try to,
stabilize.
be performant, yes, stabilize, reduce risks. So those organizations by intention try to reduce risk, especially when they become bigger and bigger and bigger. They're more and more risk averse. Um, and that makes it also hard to breed innovation in big organizations, right? That's why we have those incubators and things like that there.
Right.
Supporting innovation, and they buy startups, and but I like that disruptive question, but it goes, it's another discussion. It's another podcast we have. It's another
Yeah, of course.
discussion, and disruptive industries, and how to disrupt them. And I'm not an expert in it either, so I wouldn't. That's just my humble
Mm,
talk about my experience. I haven't disrupted any industry yet. So, and I don't think there's a lot of people that can claim it, to have disrupted lots of industries or be an expert in it. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, no, no. I can fully understand. Now, just like final thing I want to ask you today, Michael, and this is related to, and we were talking about it before we started actually. Future. Now, AI. we have to accept it, start to raise the questions. And you just mentioned like people might lose jobs, of course, when disruption comes. Um, so, but I'm more interested from the perspective you're seeing it. Like, I will not ask you like what are the new technologies that will be out there. Of course, like well, no one has it today, a crystal ball to predict, things and what can come. But what I'm interested in, how far the AI will take us, and especially, people talks about our jobs. I would not say be eliminated. I would say we have to change. I mean, we're gonna be doing something different than we do today. So interested to hear, uh, you know, um, from you about this topic.
It's a hard topic, because we just don't know, right? So it's like, if you think about, for example, writing, that's something that is really close to us right now because we see ChatGPT and so on, right? Um, and or generative AI and art, right? Where we read this, that some artist submitted a picture created by generative AI and won a prize for it. Um, the question is, what do we want to do with it? We put on it, right? So I just read a quote somewhere, and I forgot where it was, but it was and I thought it was really great that somebody said, "I don't want AI to write my essays and to draw my art. I want AI to clean my laundry and do my dishes, so I can focus on my essays and my art."
Yeah, I saw
And I
this.
thought, that was really cool. And I apologize that I don't know who I just quoted, but it wasn't from me. But I thought it was really brilliant. And I think as soon as we have lots of AI, we're gonna start going back and see, because humans, we like something that is unique, something that is special. And when AI and writing becomes a commodity, we're gonna start appreciating more and more again somebody who's writing something unique. So, and I think when I read emails today, they all sound the same because we're using AI and ChatGPT to write email. But somebody is like, when I read emails that are not perfectly written, and they sign best regards where regards is capitalized, they have a typo in it, and I know, oh, cool, those people actually want that email, and I really appreciate that email, because it's human. And then I think we're gonna see that, you know, uh, we we put more value than on human interaction and what humans are doing, and I think that it can be a good thing. Like when I look at videos on LinkedIn, there was a video a couple of years ago where they had this new robo dog, and I thought, this is cool. This is really great. And the applications are huge, right? What you can do with it. And then I saw that person that is, demoing it and kicking the dog. And it's like, you wouldn't kick a real dog, and you wouldn't. So for that person, that robot dog was totally normal, and became a commodity because they saw it every day, and you know, they didn't push it, they kicked it, and that was for me. Is that how we're gonna treat AI in the future? Because it becomes a commodity and it's gonna be around us. So you know, we're gonna kick AI and um, value the humans more, or that's it's a philosophical question, but it's a it's then it also defines our jobs, right? I can go somewhere where AI does the job, or I go somewhere where the human does the job, and I think we're gonna appreciate the humans more um, eventually, and what they're doing, because I don't think AI can create something disruptive, because like there's the definition of, and I really like that I write about it in the book. There's um, a professor called Eckhoff from Wharton School in the when he wrote about it in the 80s, which is he wrote from data to wisdom, and he separates he writes about that hierarchy and that journey from how data becomes information, information becomes knowledge, knowledge when understood can become wisdom. And according to him, data doesn't have any value, which I agree with. Because the data point itself is not valuable. If you put it in context, it becomes information, and then it starts to become valuable because you can compare it to something. And then you put it in to knowledge, and it connects it to how to apply it. Then it becomes interesting and valuable. And then when you start understanding and putting value to it, then you can create something that helps you grow. But a machine can't, according to Eckhoff, and I mostly agree with that until today, can't grow. So machines can help us to do things more efficient, which is great, by applying knowledge that we already know in a way that already exists, or puts A and B together in a way that both exist, but it's really hard to put something together that has never been done before, and AI wouldn't do it because it hasn't been trained on. While humans, when they start, combine something new and something creative, they're gonna grow. And knowing what to put together in order to grow is wisdom. Um, I really like how he's writing about it. I can't even repeat it because it's a brilliant paper. It's freely available. I read it at least 20 times and still find things that fascinate me. One of the best, I would say, the best paper I've ever written, ever read. And then, but that actually is the problem we're having. If AI is only able to gather and create knowledge, but it doesn't understand its value, then it can't make wise decisions, right? And that's where the differentiation between humanity and AI, or human intelligence and artificial intelligence, goes. So how many, we usually think that intelligence is related to wisdom because wise people are very intelligent. But that's actually not true. It's the other way around. It's they are very intelligent, but it's you have very intelligent people that are not wise. You should see it that way, and that's exactly artificial intelligence. You have somebody, artificial intelligence, that can do and repeat things that they learned, but they can't do something that is very wise, because therefore you need to understand the value of the knowledge and what they're doing. But what are we trying to achieve? Going back to the value topic, right?
Right.
So that's where AI is struggling, right? You optimize with AI one specific outcome, but AI won't tell you, wait, you shouldn't go down to 50% of the price, because that gonna disrupt the market. You're gonna you have problems in India and China, and the people are gonna quit. And it was never trained on that scenario. You would know that there are other consequences that might happen, and think beyond what you already know, or have an idea what could happen. So you wouldn't do it, but AI might not. So that's why because it doesn't put value beyond what it was trained on. So, and there's no there are no ethical considerations, right? What happens if I fire 100,000 people? Yeah, I optimize price. I optimize my costs. Cool, good. That was what I tried to do. But maybe my customers might not react positively to that message, right? Or there could be, I could have other things that might become problematic, legal constraints, compliance, whatever other stuff that you would know that are impacted. Um, Long story short, but a long answer to it to the
Oh,
question. So,
yeah,
it's a complicated one, right? It's a
it is. It is.
um,
It is indeed. It is indeed. Um, Michael, like very, I would say, deep insights you gave us today. So what I'm gonna ask you is where people can first, find more about you and how they can get the book.
You can buy the book at Amazon and Barnes and Noble and wherever you go. The book is available online, um, and then yeah, we would love to have your feedback. So we don't claim that we know it all. We wrote the book for and with the community, so we would love to get your feedback, your experiences, where you agree or disagree. So please, reach out on LinkedIn or have a website to the book. You can come there and can, discuss the topic with us, and feel free to reach out. There's um, no reason to hesitate. So we're very eager to learn from you as well.
Great. Thank you again for your valuable time first and for your valuable knowledge that you shared with us today. Of course, I will put the links for the audience so they can find it easily, and of course for your LinkedIn profile. And this is how usually I add my episode. So this is for the audience. So if you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed. If you did so, please don't forget to subscribe, give a please thumb up, and tell your friends and colleagues about this podcast. And if you are one of the loyal followers and listeners who keep coming, thank you for doing so. Keep sending me your feedback and your questions, your suggestions. I read them all, I don't skip any. And hopefully, you enjoyed today's episode, and we will be very soon again in a new one. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you again very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.